Hello everyone, welcome you all to the next series of HR Speak. Very interestingly, today I have with me someone who is not only my distinguished guest speaker, an achiever, a specialist, of course, a dynamic persona, and there are a lot more exciting experiences and journeys that we would be hearing from him. He is none other than Mr. Saurabh Roy.
Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to the HR series. It's really a privilege to have you with us, Mr. Saurabh, and definitely I would take everyone through this exciting episode of knowing a lot about his experience. But before I really get into the series of interactions with you, a little bit about Saurabh. Definitely, he is presently in the capacity as state head for industrial relations with Reliance, and from almost 2013 he is in Kolkata. Earlier to that, he has moved and scaled in different capacities, also holding his masters from University of Toronto, and a Gujarati by native. He has done his schooling and education from Baroda, from Gujarat University, and I think this is only to know a little bit about him as Saurabh. But when it comes to his profile, I mean, what more can I say? Because it's not only about the different profiles that he has been handling across the globe, but also the different kind of people and the different cultural differences. So to start off with, Saurabh, we would really like to understand, like, in this career or in this profession in IR, how did you actually move into it? Was it by choice or by chance?
See, as we all know, industrial relations function itself is a function which deals with the management, the people and the regulators, right? So we all want that work happens harmoniously within the organization and the company moves towards its growth. People want their own growth and everyone wants a win-win situation. My job is to ensure that that happens for my current company. Coming to your question, it happened by choice or by chance. I would say it happened by choice. In my previous assignments where I was working prior to Reliance, in those particular sectors, though I was heading the HR function, IR played a very prominent role. Okay, so that is where it enabled me to move into the IR function more easily when I changed jobs and moved to Reliance.
Okay, so I mean, it's always been like HR and IR. It's always like very interesting topics. But what is that critical moment that you actually made a choice that okay, I would take up IR or I would go for it?
See, most of the people, when we look from a perspective of the difference between HR and IR, is that HR is the enabler, HR is the person who brings people in, who grooms them, who provides them appraisals, and finally he gives them growth too, right? Well, IR does the dirty job of whatever is left behind by HR. So we are basically people working, solving problems, right? For me, when I said in my past assignments it was more of an IR role, is because whenever we are recruiting people in, we are not recruiting them looking at the problem side of it. We are recruiting them considering that they would work productively for the company and they also join the company with that same mindset, right? Problems happen. Why do they happen? They happen because of their misunderstandings. Okay, problems happen when people interpret things differently. Okay, and there might also be something like cultural gap which leads to problems. Okay.
So could you share an instance like these kind of cultural difference?
I would love to. So first, like what I was stressing on is that industrial relations itself, when it is dealing with the various aspects including employee relations part, implementation of the various labor laws and keeping the company on the right side of the law. We from our end try to ensure that we are on the right side of the law and our company doesn't fall into any kind of trouble at any stage of time because of inevidently violating any law. Now, when we say that why would we get into industrial relations, or how it would help us, or what would be the choices that we make in that, I would say because we are working with a growth oriented mindset, we want growth, and we means I would mean everyone in the organization. Still we face a lot of troubles. Okay, these troubles come due to the reason the way we are grown up, the way we have been nurtured right from our childhood to the stage we mature, we join a company and we start working and we transit from one establishment to another establishment. Most of the time we end up carrying our old baggages with us. Okay, and we come with a lot of set of expectations which were probably not fulfilled in the previous organization, and we carry that expecting them to be fulfilled in the current organization. Probably it doesn't. Okay, so there are cultural gaps that happens. There are I would say, when we are all now currently working in a multicultural society. Okay, if we said few years back, probably 20 years back when I started my career, people were more centric to the place where they belong to. Right now people have overcome all barriers. So we see a lot of foreign expats working in India and a lot of Indian expats working abroad. So that leads to a lot of cultural exchange and a lot of cultural gap too. Okay, what we do correctly is whenever people are transiting, if we are able to sensitize them and train them about what to expect wherever they are going, it would become much more helpful to them to transit there easily, expect and adjust to the new environment. Okay, a lot of companies have started running such programs for their expats, for their families which are moving abroad with them, and that helps them as an enabler to adjust to the new surroundings, new locations. Language definitely plays a very major role everywhere, be it within India or be it abroad. Abroad it is much easier to hire an interpreter, and I would always suggest that whenever you are moving abroad to a non-English speaking country, it is much more helpful if you hire an interpreter to be with you for at least the first 6 months. Interpreter would help you not only in understanding the language but also to settle down in that country from the cultural perspective.
Right. Very interesting, and yeah, very rightfully said. So if I have to understand from you, in this kind of digital economy that we are in now, so what are the changes in decision making that has come in from, if I have to understand from the business perspective?
I won't say much. Okay, decisions are being taken the way they were being taken in the past too. Okay, yes, we have adapted to technology. We have along with adoption to technology, we have changed our outlook, but it has not happened instantly. It has not happened because of the pandemic. It has evolved over a period of time. Okay, so few years back, I would say in the mid 90s, when the industrial revolution happened in India and the market opened up, foreign direct investment was permitted into the country. Prior to that, there were industries that would say that changes would never happen, and most of the industries were labor centric. They were not willing to adapt to new technologies and all, right? We all know what happened. A lot of industries suddenly disappeared. Okay, a lot of industries disappeared because a lot of new companies came in with new technologies. People were trained, people took it up positively, and that is how we evolved. When I talk it from the digital revolution perspective, yeah, working for Reliance Jio 5 years back, we only started the digital revolution. Just on 5th of September this month, we celebrated our 5th anniversary. Okay, so we are in that sense a very young company. At the same time, we have reorganized the entire nation in such a way that now everyone is able to connect very easily with anyone and everyone. People are able to video chat. Okay, people need not download stuff. They can write on their device, look stuff up using the internet, right? Learning has become digital because of this thing. And when we say decision taking, it has become more faster in certain aspects. Okay, because now people are boundaryless. Okay, few years back we were talking also about something called brain drain from India, right? So a lot of people studying from IITs, IIMs and elsewhere would move abroad, and we would say that we are losing our human capital, we are losing good assets from these well educated institutes and all. What is happening is now there is a reverse trend. So we can utilize these brains from any part of the globe, in any part of the globe, and we are able to harness it very well.
Right.
Okay.
So I mean, if I have to take the cue from what you have said, the reverse drain. So what would be the kind of those critical behavior, or from a competency side, what is that you would be looking into these emerging leaders, or maybe to the young aspirants?
Critical behavior, I would say, from the industrial relations perspective, would remain the same through the ages. Okay. And I no, not generic. I would expect all of my leaders to be trustworthy. Okay, they have to win the trust. They have to save the trust. Okay, so they need to be trustworthy. They have been trustworthy. That is why they are leaders in the first place. Okay, they have to maintain that. They have to be socially and emotionally intelligent. So they have to understand what people want, that team members want, the company wants, and then take the business ahead accordingly, right? And they need to be very much agile. Okay, if they are not agile, if they are not resilient, then it would definitely impact the company negatively. Okay, so I believe these are certain things when we talk about agility or resilience, or when we talk about trustworthiness, right? These are certain things which have got passed on from generations to generations. It remains the same. Okay, it doesn't change. Probably the language changes. Okay.
Yeah, maybe the way of hiring pattern at times,
Right.
situations.
Right.
It does that. Very interesting. I have shared with everyone Saurav's profile. We have heard a lot from Saurav, but maybe if we can understand that, how has it been like every day? How do you take along your day, or what is that motivates you or keep you moving? Of course, we would come back to your career aspects once again, but something more on your personal side, because it's very interesting, because it's not only about having the diverse profiles and carrying these portfolios, but it's also like how have you been adapting. So knowing you from your end, Saurav, could we understand?
I grew up actually in a very diverse multicultural society. Okay, I was born in a wonderful small town called Baroda in Gujarat, which itself is a multicultural town, and people who used to stay around me, there were Parsis, there were Gujaratis, there were Punjabis, there were Catholics. Okay, so people from every caste, creed, I would say, language were there in my surroundings, and I grew up between them, right? So I learned to respect parathas equally respecting idlis. Okay, and that is where that adaptability came in, right? When I moved abroad in my first assignment, I used to work with a lot of people from Latin America. Okay, and I was at that time in North America, in Canada, and we had a lot of Punjabis out there. So these Latin Americans would call these Punjabis Papaji. Okay, so that is what I used to get called up in my workplace by a lot of Mexican people. So when I'm walking on the soft floor, they will say, Papa is coming, Papa is coming. So at times I used to feel very, I used to laugh at it. But then, yeah, that is how they adapted. We have to understand, we have to respect, we have to adjust, and we have to gel in. Okay, if we carry our baggage with us when we are moving abroad or moving anywhere within the country, also from one state to another state, and we say we want everything as it is, as the way it was, it becomes very difficult for us to survive. It is not that other people would accept us or embrace us. We have to accept them and embrace them. Okay, so that would definitely happen, and the reason we are moving out in the first place is for our own career growth and personal growth, right? So we need to be really adaptive in that sense.
I mean, definitely. I mean, adaptability is the key. In fact, it is very, very critical in any business scenario, whether it's in your own professional side, in your personal sides as well. And I think you are a great example of that. And
I'm learning. Every day it's a new lesson for me.
Definitely. And from a dexterous person like you, we would actually like to understand, like, what is that has been always motivating you?
New challenges. Okay, new challenges, new places, new people, right? So what motivates me very honestly is, meeting, mingling, interacting with people. If I'm not able to do that, say if I had a job of a business analytics, I would die, probably. I wouldn't be able to survive, right? I need to speak with people, understand them, talk to them, and probably, if possible, provide them solutions to overcome the issues that they have been facing, right? So that we all can grow together. No one can grow alone. We all have to grow together holding hands, right? So it's like a family. Small story I would say someone was sharing with me the other day is that there were a group of friends and they used to meet and chat and all, and one day one friend dropped out. Okay, so a few days down the leader went to check up on this fellow, found him to be sitting by the fireside alone. This fellow entered. Both of them didn't speak anything. What this fellow did, the leader did, was he simply removed one charcoal from the fireside and kept it aside. Slowly, gradually, the ember died. Okay, so it was a message. If you are left alone, then probably will not be able to survive and grow. So when we talk about either our families, when we talk about our workplaces, when we talk about our schools, our colleges, or our social groups, right? Human being itself is a social animal. That is how we are defined. So unless and until we don't interact, keeping growth in mind, we will not be able to sustain or survive. So we have to keep that positive outlook and grow. For me, that is what drives me all the time.
That's really phenomenal. And in fact, very recently I was just going through the other side of your profiles, and is that so that has actually enticed you for taking over your thoughts on DNI, because you have been, I believe you have been with a group of like-minded interest people who have been sharing their thoughts on DNI, and you have co-authored also a book.
I have. The book is supposed to get published. E-publication would be out in October, and final, the printed form would be sometime coming out mid of next year. It is being published by Springer Publications Singapore. So me with other few authors, we co-authored a book on diversity and inclusiveness and the practical side of it, how industries can adapt to it. Okay, coming years, looking from the Indian perspective, a lot of Indian companies would definitely adapt to DNI initiatives within their organization, because everyone wants to be inclusive as far as the business is concerned. Okay, so what we have tried to do, or what rather I have tried to do, is provide a framework on how companies can actually nurture DNI within their workplace and how based on that they can grow. So we have been talking about the setting up of internal framework of the company on DNI, setting up of external framework. So like we were discussing elsewhere also, DNI starts from recruitment, right? So recruitment is one part of it. Along with recruitment, you also have to look at the job descriptions, the job designs. Okay, you have to look at awareness within the company. You have to look up at the company's infrastructure, because the moment you start talking about diversifying and getting people from various segments of the society into the workplace, you need to have your infrastructure also in that designed in that manner to accept them and to provide them a safe work environment. So Right.
needs a transformation.
Right, absolutely. So that is one part. When we talk about the external stakeholders, we talk about our vendors, we talk about our suppliers and sellers and resellers. So we require to not only implement D&I within the company, but also among them, so that we can reach out more, open way to our entire customer base. And finally comes the government side, the society in which we are working. So they need to benefit from it. So that is how this framework works, and it's supposed to go ahead in a similar way in future.
That's very interesting, and wish you all the best. I'm sure I am personally would be looking forward to this. And so coming to books, if I have to ask you, which has been your favorite book?
My all-time favorite book till now, and I read it long back when I was in my college days. I didn't probably understand it first time I read it. I had to reread it a couple of times. I lost that book, few times in between, and again repurchased it. Is a book called Catch-22. Okay. It's written by Joseph Heller. It's a book on a war, but there are tons and tons of management lessons to be learned from that book. It's actually a satire on war. Okay. But it talks about how organizations work in a structured manner. Okay. At the same time, when a disruption happens, what kind of change it can bring in for the benefit of the organization. So I still love going back to that book whenever I feel free. I look it up, I read few chapters, I try to recollect, and always there is some new learning from that.
I mean, this is something that each one of us should always be continuing, as to have our learning curve there. And since we are here, from listening to an expert like you, so what would be your message to our young aspirants or the young leaders of tomorrow?
I would say whatever you do it with your heart, completely into it. Don't do it half-heartedly. Don't do it because there is money in it. Don't do it because there might be some glamour in it. Okay, whatever you do it with your heart. If you have to pick up rags, rag picking, right? Slowly, gradually, it has become a huge business for a lot of companies. Okay, so there is nothing which is bad. There is nothing which can be considered as a small job. What is important? How you are doing it, and how much of your heart you are putting into it.
Very well said. I think this has been not only interesting, but I am sure that each one of us are going to take in all the valuable inputs and the thoughts that you have shared. Thank you so much, Mr. Saurav Rai. And it's been a privilege to be part of NHRD Kolkata chapter. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
so
much
much.
for having me today.